Welcome again to the Franciscan Hermitage here in Indianapolis, Indiana, as we celebrate the seventh Sunday in Ordinary Time. You know, there are two passages that I want to be able to spend a little bit of time on. In the very first reading, it says that we should be holy as the Lord your God is holy. So the whole point here is that we're supposed to be living in love. That's the whole point. And the second reading says, never forget, you are a temple of God. And God is love. And you know, in the gospel, it says, if you are sending love to someone and they're not sending it back, don't worry. Just continue to send your love and you will be a happy and a healthy person. You know, I had a very challenging situation with my brother years ago. From the time we were very small children, he was the closest of my brothers. We were four. And after his second marriage, he asked to come to live with me. And I didn't realize at that time that he had a drinking problem. And for some reason or other, when I was on a trip to Australia, and I was gone for several weeks, he left the friary where he was living with me. And when I got back, he told me that he did not want to speak to me anymore. And that was very painful. But I can accept my brother where he was. Then, a couple of years later, he shows up at the friary to tell me that he is going to be leaving the state and living in Kentucky. And I asked him if he could please keep in touch, and he said, I don't know about whether I want to keep in touch. And so I hugged him and I kissed him, and I said, Joey, I love you. I never did get his address, but I did find it on the internet, and so I sent him birthday cards and Christmas cards and Easter cards, and I never got a response. And even though that was a real challenge for me, I never had resentment. I felt that Joey was carrying a burden, and the only way I could help is to continue to love him. Then, after a couple of years, I got a notice that he had died 2 months before. And that was very difficult too. But I know that Joey had a reason for the way he was acting, and I could accept him where he was. You know, what happened next is really interesting and strange. The day after I got the notice of his death, a red headed woodpecker showed up at the window when I was doing my afternoon meditation and was pecking at the window, and I couldn't figure out what that was. It was a very strange noise. And when I went into the living room and I found this bird pecking on the window, I thought, that's strange, because there's a bird feeder right there, but he wasn't interested in the feeder. He was just pounding on the window. And he came there every day at 2 o'clock in the afternoon for 2 weeks. My interpretation of that was that my brother Joe was trying to tell me everything is okay and that he understands. The point I want to make here, my friends, is that I refuse to carry any resentment, because that it can also bring on illness. I simply accepted Joey the way he was and where he was and supported him with my love. The gospel says, you have heard an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. And he said, no, it can't be that way with you. He said, if someone strikes you on the cheek, turn the other and simply love them. Now, I know, my dear friends, that many of you may have relationships that are difficult. But please understand, as long as you are sending love to that person, you're off the hook. And a person who carries around resentment on their shoulders is the one who suffers. And that kind of burden can bring on illness. I might suggest that as we go into the next week, that you look at people in your life that may be causing you difficulty and simply accept them. And in meditation, send them your love. You will always then be in a state of peace and joy. And that's exactly what God wants us to do. That's what these scriptures are here for, to help us remember. The only thing we have to do is to love everybody. You can do it because you're a powerful, spiritual being, and your love makes a difference. God bless you all.